All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Culture and People Cast. Today we have Ty Smith. Ty, thank you for joining.
Thanks so much for having me, Anna.
Of course. In a few sentences, would you tell us who you are and what you do?
Yes, my name is Ty Smith. I am the founder and CEO of ComSafe AI, a San Diego-based technology company that specializes in conflict and violence prevention. I've been running this company for 5 years, but before that, I spent 20 years in the United States Navy as an active duty Navy SEAL.
Wow. And you shared some just tremendous facts about your life, Ty. So thank you for all you've done so far and will do for people and culture in any organized system, right? Military, work, wherever. So for you, having really done such amazing work for so long, what's the best aspect of influencing people and culture?
For me, and I think about this from the standpoint of my experiences throughout my 20-year military career, combined with the experiences that I've gained over the last 5 years of being an entrepreneur and growing this company, I would say the best aspect is my overall personal growth. You know, coming out of the military has a very distinct culture, and you don't realize how distinct that culture is until you leave the military. And especially for me, because I was in the military for so long, coming into the private sector, I realized very quickly that, man, you have a whole lot to learn about a whole myriad of different things. But first and foremost, you have to learn how to fit in again. And so even though I started my own business, I realized very quickly that, hey, you still have to learn how to fit in because you're hiring people that were never in the military or in law enforcement, and they are not even going to come close to understanding the military culture that you're bringing into the private sector. But also, you're going to have to learn how to fit in again because you have to go out and talk to all of these different people that could potentially be your customer. And so I read something that just kind of stuck with me, and I forget where I read it, but it was a simple saying, and it just said, be curious of people. And that particular statement, I don't know what it was about it, but it clicked for me. It caused that switch to go to the other side and go, hey, you need to spend as much time as you can talking and listening to other people, and for the most random of reasons. Because when it comes to culture overall, really all culture is, it's a hodgepodge. It's a mixing together of all of these different people's experiences from all over the place. And for us as human beings, it's us having acceptance of all of those other cultures and different experiences that other people had. So that's been the most important aspect for me coming out of the military into the private sector, is just the realization that, hey, you have a long way to grow and be open to that. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that though, Ty. Curiosity, when people ask me, what should I work on to get, no matter what level they are, what should I work on to get further ahead in my career? Curiosity is one of the 3 things that I suggest, because curiosity creates connection, right? And that connection is going to open so many doors that you didn't even know about. And you're going to learn so much about others and yourself. That self-awareness, just by being curious and hearing other people's stories, so valuable. So yes, thank you for acknowledging curiosity.
For sure.
When you think about the workplace, right? So these people who are virtual or not right now, I'm hearing from a lot of leaders that engaging talent is a challenge. What are your thoughts?
Yes, especially right now with, as we look toward the future of work, and most of us are working from home. And I think that looking toward the future, it's my personal and professional opinion that as a result of this pandemic, at least 30% of us will work virtually, from this point forward. So based off my experience from building ComSafe AI and actually interviewing more than 65 chief human resource officers, employee engagement and the measurement of employee productivity is very difficult, and it's going to be even more so as we look toward the future of work, and given that we're all working virtually. I think it's really, really important, considering that for organizational leadership, to build processes that allow them to continue to spend time with their employees, whether it be in a virtual environment or whether it be in person. But that open communication is critical. And I understand that some large enterprises may say that, well, hey, Ty, it's very difficult because I have 200,000 employees. Okay, well, break it down. It's okay for you to actually build that type of process with 5 or 6 of your managers, where every week you say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes talking to each of you singularly, not as a group, but no, this is just time for you and I to engage and for me to measure, how are you doing? How is your family doing? What's impacting your ability to do your job from home right now? Because you're probably looking at some of the same problems that a whole lot of other people are looking at as well. By the way, you're a manager. What are you hearing from the staff that's reporting to you? Because even though I can't talk to all 200,000 of our employees, I can engage with 5 or 6 of our managers, and they're going to give me the gist of the company atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I think that establishing those open lines of communication is going to go a long way toward measuring the engagement of our employees as we look toward the future of work.
Yeah. And Ty, as much as that was an opinion, there was some tactical advice in there about building those processes, because I think leaders just sort of expect that relationships happen naturally, or that the deep connection between a manager and an employee, a leader and an employee is going to happen. No, set up processes that create opportunities and space for connection, right? That create efficiencies and effectiveness so that you can build those connections. Because connection, guys, real connection takes intentionality, right?
100%.
Yeah. What other tactical advice do you have for the listeners, Ty, that maybe it's a leader, maybe it's an employee who says, like, I really want to enrich the culture of the place that I'm working in right now. What can we do?
Yeah, I think that it's really, really important that organizational leadership takes charge of that particular effort. See, that's something that has to, from my opinion, in my opinion, that is something that has to start at the very top of an organization. It can't go from bottom up. So I think it's important that leadership, hey, listen, you can start with something as simple as a memo. Mm-hmm. Just sending a memo to the entire team and letting the team know that, hey, listen, we're going through a lot as a company, as a country right now. We understand that diversity and inclusion has always been a challenge, and it's a very, very big deal. And it's certainly on the front of everyone's minds right now in the wake of everything that we've experienced from the death of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and how that's impacted the relationship of law enforcement in the United States with all of us. Yep. So something as simple as putting out a memo acknowledging that, hey, we understand that this is on y'all's mind. And maybe this is keeping some of you up at night, but guess what? You're not doing this by yourself. It will go a very long way. Because here's the deal. If organizational leadership fails to talk about that openly, to acknowledge it openly, you're just leaving your entire team to the mercy of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And we know the chaos that brings. So get ahead of it. Something as simple as just sending a memo to your staff and letting them know, hey, we're aware of this. We're aware that these are conversations that are probably happening within your house. It's probably keeping you up at night. You're wondering if we're acknowledging it. Well, guess what? We are. And these are the programs that we're thinking of putting in place in order to make sure that we keep balance here within the company. What are your thoughts? Something as simple as that memo, and asking everyone else for their thoughts will go a tremendously long way, in my opinion.
Yes. Communicating openly and often, right? Because here's the thing, employees have a story going on in their head. So you're either going to help contribute to the storyline and the plot and the ending, or they're going to make it up. As Brene Brown says, the story that I'm telling myself is, right, there's a story going on. So you might as well influence it, because when you don't is why we get 67% of our workforce not engaged.
Absolutely. During times of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, it is up to organizational leadership to control the narrative. Because if they don't, it's exactly what you said, Anna. that narrative is happening in your employees' heads, whether you acknowledge it or not.
Yes.
And it's affecting their productivity as an employee, whether you acknowledge that or not. So it behooves you to control the narrative. That way you control the culture that's developing within the company.
Yeah. And if I would add one asterisk for our listeners, it is this: you can control it, but do it honestly. Like you said, openly. And to me, I hear vulnerable too, but I'm not sure that everybody would hear that, right? I don't want you putting out some Pollyanna message that's like, we've got this whole thing figured out. No, we don't. The social injustice, the pandemic, come on, we don't have a lot figured out, right? So just
and that
say what you
vulnerability
don't.
is huge. It's huge.
Yes.
It is so important. Listen, just because we are the leaders of our company, it doesn't mean that we know everything. It doesn't mean that we're immune to all of this other chaos that everyone's dealing with. Yeah, I lead my company, but I have a wife and kids at home that are dealing with this mess just like the rest of us. And it's possible that I can bring some of that stress into the workplace, even within a virtual environment. I'm a human being. So showing your staff that, hey, listen, I'm a human being. I'm just as scared as you are. I'm just as stressed out as you are, but we're in this together and we're going to get through this together. I got your back and you got my back. It goes so far. Just be human.
Yeah, agreed. Human first, right?
That's right.
Awesome. All right, let's do some shout outs, Ty. Who else is doing some really good work in the ring around people and culture?
So I would have to call out a couple of my mentors. First and foremost, Olin Hyde, who is the CEO of LeadCrunch, San Diego-based AI company. And also I have to call out my ComSafe AI co-founder, Sanjit Singh, who is also the original co-founder of LeadCrunch before he exited that company. Sanjit is probably one of the most brilliant business professionals I've ever met, and it's extremely rare that I make a decision in this company without his counsel.
Great. Awesome. Well, we will connect people in the show notes to Olin and Sanjeev. Thank you for that. And how about some resources? If people are out there thinking, I want to read or listen or watch something that's going to advance my own thinking around people and culture, what are some of your faves?
Well, I do a lot of reading, and I guess I'll just talk to you about what I just finished and what I'm reading right now. I just finished a book by Greg McKeown called Essentialism. Mm-hmm. And if you are a high functioning adult, please read that book. Do yourself a favor and read that book, especially if you are leading teams. I just started reading a book called The Secret Sand Hill Road.
I've heard of it. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that I'm going to gain a lot from that book. I've heard a lot about that. But to drill down into resources around building culture and acceptance amongst people, I would say to stick to anything regarding servant leadership, reading anything around empathetic leadership. And then lastly, I go back to what you and I talked about at the very beginning, which is just be curious of people, be human, develop an attitude that allows you to be open toward other people and other cultures, and understanding that we are all different, but at the same time, we are all just alike. We're all one. Even as we break cultures down, I looked at one of the things I learned from my military career, spending all that time in the Middle East, is that even our enemies have the same desires as we do. People just want to raise their families, and they want their families to be safe and happy and healthy, no matter what. So even though I'm from this place and you're from that place, and there's people all over the world in quote unquote different cultures, we all want the same thing. So be kind and open-hearted to one another. And in my opinion, the rest will fall right into place.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ty. That's great advice. Love that. Thank you for being a guest today. And thank you for all you're doing for people and culture for 20 years in the military and now 5 years out on your own. I just really appreciate all your work.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here today.
Thanks, Ty. Peace and progress, guys.